CD Projekt Red have explained why they chose Ciri as the main protagonist for The Witcher 4, and it reeks of The Mandalorian Season 3 and how Lucasfilm and the people attached to that show tried to explain how Bo-Katan was really the Mandalorian. It did not go well for them, and my guess is this Witcher 4 project isn't going to go well for CD Projekt Red either. So let's get into this here. I wrote this up over at phantompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. I encourage you to head on over there, become a paid subscriber, help us fight back against this woke ideology that is infecting the video game industry. So the Witcher 4 executive producer Malgorzata Matrega spoke with IGN and said that the reason they chose Ciri was because she was the, quote, the very organic, logical choice. Now, I'm not sure if that is true or not. Obviously, covered the fact that there were multiple endings in The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, where one of those endings was the fact that Ciri does become a Witcher. However, another ending is she becomes the Empress, and another ending is that she dies. She sacrifices herself, although there is some ambiguity to that. Maybe the fact that she just kind of leaves, and we never see her again. Obviously, they released some DLC later on, and in some of that DLC, she's also confirmed to be a Witcher. So I wouldn't say that it is the very organic, logical choice, given the fact that there are multiple endings for The Witcher 3, and in two of those endings, two of the main endings, she does not become a Witcher. So I am going to push back on that right away. Anyways, he then basically echoed the whole narrative surrounding the promotion for Season 3, where they were saying that Bo-Katan was really the titular Mandalorian, and it wasn't Din Djarin anymore, because they were basically trying to trick people, gaslight people into thinking that Din Djarin wasn't even really the Mandalorian they were talking about in the beginning. It was utterly ridiculous. And they're doing the same thing right here, because this is what Matrega says. It was always about her, starting from Saga. When you read it in the books, she's an amazing layered character. And of course, as a protagonist, we said goodbye to Geralt previously. So this is a continuation. I guess for all of us, it's like she was meant to be, that was always her. He then went on, then we got this, game director Sebastian Kalemba saying this. Well, let's talk about this first, right? So clearly the story revolves around Ciri, not going to deny that, but Geralt has always been the Witcher. He is who you think of when you think of The Witcher. Now, sure, there are other Witchers, etc., but the Witcher is Geralt. Like, let's not even try to play games with this. These people know this. Anyone saying that this is not true is just fooling themselves. So this idea that it was always about her, starting from the saga when you read it in the book, she's etc. That's not true. I don't even think she's hardly mentioned in the first two games that CD Projekt Red made. So just total gaslighting there. And then we got these comments here from Sebastian Kalemba. He says she's actually about to become the Witcher. She's about to actually form her own codex, but on her own terms. The way she actually deals with the monsters, the way she deals with quests, the adventures, it's her own unique way. This sounds like total agenda stuff right here. Pushing the feminist agenda right here. Because she is a female character, she's got to do all the stuff her own way. That's just all this reeks of right here. This is all we see over and over and over again when they talk about these female protagonists and how they have to do it their own way, and they're literally just doing it like the men, and just trying to become the men. And it's just, and we saw in the trailer, she's fighting monsters just like the men, and clearly she's taking issues with the people that she's taking. I don't even know if she took the bounty or whatever, but she decided to go and fight that monster and try and stop the sacrifice that was happening. You saw that happen with Geralt as well. So it didn't really look like she was doing anything different. It literally looks like they just have a female Witcher now doing the same things. But this is how they're all going to promote this stuff. This is how they always promote these feminist projects. He continues saying, and also I think that she gives more room to be able to tell different stories here and there. Of course, we want to give the opportunity for the player to explore more nuance because this is what we do, but she deserves that. Now, again, this makes absolutely no sense. You can tell plenty of the same stories with a male protagonist too. The idea that you need a female protagonist to tell different stories. Now, sure, I do think that certain stories are for women. But when you're dealing with a literal monster hunter witcher, usually that is a male centered story for the most part. I don't think there aren't many tales of women going out and slaying dragons. Columba then declared this. There was an intention behind this choice. It was far from roulette. It wasn't random. I remember we had discussions 9 years ago. We were talking about who's next. The very, very instant answer was Ciri. There are many reasons behind that. We've already mentioned a few, but she really deserves a stage, and we want players to really experience her story because she has so much to tell, so much to prove. The amount of challenges that are in front of her give us so much amazing energy and fuel to create an epic saga that we had no choice but to go with it. We all felt that this is the way. I believe this is the super right choice. So, as I said, this feels very similar to The Mandalorian Season 3. We had a report from Screen Rant. Was it last year, I want to say, 2023, where executive producer Rick Famuyiwa said this at Star Wars Celebration. I think now with Bo-Katan possessing the Darksaber, I know that there was a lot of expectations that might have shifted, both in terms of what it meant for Din Djarin, but also for Bo and what does it mean. Who is the Mandalorian at this point? Who is, they're literally trying to transfer that title from Bo-Katan to Din Djarin. And so I think it could be anyone, and I think that's what they're trying to define in many ways, is what does that mean to be Mandalorian? Like, it could be anyone. It could be anyone, not just the character that we've had be the main character for the past 2 seasons, but it could be anyone now. You know, the title of the show can be anyone. I mean, these people, who do they think they're fooling? They weren't. They weren't fooling many people. Because we'll see the viewership significantly decline. And then we had this. There was a Disney Gallery Star Wars Mandalorian episode. And Famuyiwa said this. Bo, in many respects, this season is also The Mandalorian. Because it's so much about her story and her journey and her sort of initial ideas of going back and bringing her people back together that got derailed after she lost the Darksaber. Sounds familiar? Sounds familiar. Sounds like what we just read from the folks over at CD Projekt Red. We even had Jon Favreau saying this. She earned her stripes and adventures that we've all seen from nobility, and she's been part of Death Watch. She's existed in many different contexts, and she's also a character where there's room for development. Sounds similar there to what CD Projekt Red is saying. We did have this interview, another interview at Star Wars Celebration 2, where Famuyiwa did hedge. He says, I think at the end of it, it's always been about this core relationship with Din Djarin and Grogu, and I think we have just been trying to service that story of this reluctant father figure and his child. So I think they realized what they were doing, and he had to backtrack quickly. And where that adventure has taken us, that has sort of pushed the show and pushed the boundaries of the show as that relationship has grown, and Din Djarin has been on this journey to sort of do right by these decisions he's made. It sort of forced us and put us in a position of having to make the show bigger, and that's taken us to different places. And this season is certainly a big example of that because now it ain't just one Mando, it's a lot of Mandos, and there's a mommy. So even while he's hedging, he's kind of also pointing to Bo-Katan being the next Mandalorian, the titular Mandalorian of the show. And then what's after all of this stuff, they got massive backlash. Katie Sackhoff had to come out and totally do some damage control. And she said this, no, I think there's always going to be a lot of so she was specifically asked about the show shifting the focus to Bo-Katan from Din Djarin, and she said, no, I think there's always going to be a lot of speculation in this fandom. You know, I think it's one of the reasons why people love this fandom so much. Well, this is clearly clearly damage control because the guy's literally saying that's exactly what they were trying to do, right? Who's the Mandalorian at this point? I think Bo-Katan is the Mandalorian now. So there clearly were discussions. And they love this universe so much that a lot of times it allows just enough ambiguity for people to interpret things the way that they want to interpret them. And out of that, there's the ability to have a lot of misinformation get out or just, wishful thinking. Or we just listen to what the guy said, and it's pretty clear what he said, and that's what he said. Misinterpreting it. Okay. You're not fooling anyone, Katie Sackhoff. And the show didn't fool anyone either because they did put Bo-Katan as the main protagonist for Season 3. Now, sure, Din Djarin did have his own little story arc, but for the most part, that show focused on Bo-Katan. And the numbers show that people abandoned the show. So according to Nielsen, the show was the 8th most watched original streaming show in 2023 with 12.3 billion minutes viewed. So obviously that is pretty solid, pretty good, but it's not good for The Mandalorian because back in 2020, Back in 2020, when the second season debuted, the show had 14.51 billion minutes watched, according to Nielsen. We go down here, 14.51, right there. And it was the fifth most watched. So the year that season 3, they lost 2 billion minutes watched. Making it even worse is here. Look, they had 150.2 million subscribers to Disney Plus in 2023. In 2020, they only had 73.7 million. So they had almost double, more than double, total subscribers, and they lost 2 billion minutes watched for Mandalorian Season 3. It didn't work out. It did not work out. They lost. And it doesn't even look like they're doing a Season 4. We'll see how this new movie does. I have a feeling it will not cross the $1 billion mark. It might not even do $500 million. And we've also seen how this doesn't work with other franchises. Marvel Cinematic Universe, perfect example. When they try to supplant male heroes with female heroes, what happens? Failure. Failure after failure. The Marvels bombed at the box office just last year. Didn't even make over $200 million in total gross. Worst performing film in the MCU ever. Just this year, what did Sony do? Madam Web crashed and burned. Only $100.2 million. Total, global, worst performing film in Sony's Marvel Universe to date. We'll see if Kraven takes that title. But this is what happens over and over and over again. You take a male franchise, you supplant it with a female protagonist, and you get failure. Over and over again. These people never learn. I mean, you go back to Ubisoft. Ubisoft literally had Assassin's Creed Odyssey. They have the data that says that the majority of their players choose Alexios over Cassandra. It was 2/3 chose Alexios over Cassandra. Got to push the female protagonist because they want to force behaviors. They want to force this feminist agenda. They want women acting like men. And CD Projekt Red is all about this. It's all well documented. Not going to get into it here. They've got ESG videos on YouTube here. They've got DEI stuff. They discriminate against men when it comes to internships. They are winning DEI awards. They're all about the agenda. And the people who made The Witcher 3, they don't even work there. Many of them don't even work there anymore, despite what the CEO tried to claim earlier this year. And they're lying, too, about that. So they're playing with fire here. They have a very popular brand and franchise, and they're trying to push a feminist agenda into it. That's what it looks like to me. And when people do this, it usually ends up failing. Now, I think this first game might do decent sales-wise. But I think moving forward, if they continue down this path, second and third game that they have planned, you're going to see massive declines. We already see that. What it was Spider-Man 2, half of the sales. Last of Us Part 2, half of the sales of the first one. When they start introducing this agenda, people tune out. Look at God of War Ragnarok, just this recent on Steam. Less than half of what the God of War 2019 did when they released that on Steam. The pattern is clear. CG Projekt Red has made their choice. Let me know what you guys make of it. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.